it's really important that as part of this course we study judgment and bias, and that's because judgment and bias affect our daily lives. So let me give you an example. So let's say that you have a teacher that you don't like. So the fact that you don't like this teacher is your judgment. This judgment will be formed on biases that you have pre-existing in your head. So let's say the first day you came to school, this teacher did something you don't like. Now they've done this one thing that you don't like, and because of that, you have used these biases to form the judgment that you don't like them. You then use your critical thinking to go to the principal and tell the principal that you don't like this teacher. You may then be deemed as somebody that is out to cause trouble and cause problems, which will therefore potentially affect the way that the teachers treat you. So you can see how our biases and judgment have a ripple effect on how we are treated within the world.
So biases come from culture, they come from history, they come from geography. And biases, when strongly held, can feel as if they're facts, but they're not. They are our ideas of how the world should work. And once we recognize that these are only ideas, strongly held ideas, but ideas nonetheless, we can learn to harness those ideas and also accept the opposing ideas of someone else.
Oh, that's a big question. Bias affects everything constantly. I think also it's not just, so it's like you might have bias about how someone might treat you and therefore act in a different way. So like, I would go into a work situation very differently as I would going into a situation meeting with my friends. And that's due to the existence of bias. Like if I went into a work situation in the same way as I would with my friends, then I would be treated completely differently. Bias affects us constantly in the world. Constantly, I honestly think that pretty much every single personal interaction that we have, unfortunately, is because of bias, and it's a thing that everyone holds them. People might not like to admit that they hold biases, but it's so important that we talk about the fact that we do, so that we can begin to challenge them and change them.
So to talk more about biases, I want to talk about China as a coconut culture and the UK as a peach culture. So as a Western European man, and Westerners generally, we are very friendly to strangers, and we have a wider community sense. Okay, this is the peach part of this analogy. So when I see a Chinese auntie in the lift at my condo or wherever, and I smile, and she looks at me and she goes, "It's very strange, right?" And I took offense to that. I was like, why is she being so disrespectful? I'm smiling. But now I understand the context. She's not being rude, she is just from a coconut culture. Okay, coconut culture, the outside is very tough, you know. It's all about family values and close friendships, but you do not talk to strangers. Where does that cultural bias come from? It comes from Chinese history, Chinese culture in the 21st century. So she's not being rude to me, she is just enacting her own culture, her own cultural bias. My culture, cultivated at school and up through society, we are very friendly to strangers. And very friendly to those we don't know, and will help strangers. So It's really important to not judge people for what you think is fact, but accept that everyone is acting in their own world of cultural bias. When we accept that, we can take the good parts of each system and put them together to create a new society of global citizenship in the 21st century.